to the Mss Francois Show. Yes, another episode. And this time I got me a man. Oh, he married. So I'm sorry, ladies. No go. But anyway, we all know what the Mss Francois Show is about. Candid conversations, a variety of entertainment, and where I use humor to help you with your dysfunctional relationship. Today's guest name is Eric Wooten. Well, he tells me he's a dynamic speaker, but we have to check him out, right? But he's an author and a relationship expert. Like marriage have totally changed as time has gone on, right? So would you say your marriage is typically traditional and is traditional somewhat outdated?
Well, what do you mean by traditional? What's
Because,
outdated?
right, so now we have like polygamy, like people spicing things up, open
Sure,
relationships. We have
sure.
man on man, woman, like it's open. It's like a candy store, and you could have all you can eat. Well, you might get a belly ache, but beside that, it's just
Sure.
like a free for all. So traditional, it seems like husband and wife, and we go all together and we watch the kids grow up and then we die.
Yeah. Boy, yeah, I mean, you almost make me want to get out of my marriage when you describe it that way. So I this is a hard discussion, obviously, right? Because it's like, how do you go pro for something without being against something else? You know
Mm.
what I mean? So it almost becomes difficult because if I go, yeah, I'm pro traditional marriage, and it's like, well, you're against everything else. Um, I think that there's some things that are obviously, well, let me rephrase it this way. Can we have a logical discussion about something without it being emotional? You know what I mean? So let's take polygamy. You cannot find any research or statistics to back um, those being successful. They just don't work.
But some
Polyamorous
people say,
relationships generally, I know you're going to find the exception who said, oh, I know, but the reality is that we have intimacy desires and we're human and we have feelings, and you're not going to not get jealous of another relationship. And when you start with an open relationship, right, so even the people who would create rules around an open relationship,
mhm.
that is that's fictitious, because the foundation of an open relationship is, I don't want to be stuck with only you because you're probably not enough, so I'm gonna need something else out there. Now, what if I get to a place where the rules that we have set up are preventing me from getting what I think I want? I'm gonna rewrite the rules, or I'm gonna break the rules, whether it's sex and gender. Where I just today we can't have logical discussions anymore because we become
Yes.
so emotional.
And you'll get
And
canceled.
yeah, I'm trying to get canceled out here. I'm just, you asked the question, I'm just answering statistically based on research. No
Like,
emotion involved.
what does your shirt say? And tell me something about what your shirt.
That's the name of
Okay.
my organization that I have, that I help
Why did
couples.
you name it Altered?
Well, because that's usually where most relationships start, is at the altar. We go to a wedding altar and have a ceremony, and we think it's all cute and fine and dandy. And so I said, you know what? Let's call it altered marriage. Everybody can connect and relate to that.
Nice. I like it. It's different. And then we close the curtain and we say happily ever after. And no one
Right,
realized that's not what it is. You know,
right.
one thing, I have a lot of guests on my show who have written books and a relationship expert, and a lot of them tend to be women. You're
Hmm.
honestly like my first man. So,
Really?
yes, it's always a woman. Some woman always knows something, right?
What's the
And
deal? The women always know everything, I guess, huh?
so with that, do you say there's a difference between how a man would coach or be a relationship expert compared to a female?
Yeah, I think everybody would be different based on a variety of things. Obviously, gender, background, worldview, all that kind of stuff. So sure, I mean, I'm
I
gonna
guess
tend to go my
like
nature. Go ahead.
you're coming from a man's point of view,
Sure,
right? And a
sure.
woman is supposedly coming from a woman's point of view. So could you be able to offer us women something different than a woman would be able to offer a woman?
Sure. Just like the inverse would be true, right? That a woman would be able to offer some stuff that I don't offer, based on, but again, that's everything. That's life experience. That's, marital experience. Obviously, I can offer something different having been married 28 years than a counselor who's been married 2 years. I have a wife and 3 daughters, so I'm going to have experience
It's a lot
dealing
of
with
extra then.
4 women in a house that a guy that had 3 sons didn't, right? So
It's
I would
very
I would
true.
never I would never propose that I fully understand women and can give you all the right answers, nor would I say that I fully understand every man and why they do the things they do. So
Let me tell you something I learned about Eric in the last 10 minutes. He could go wrong a subject, jump in, then jump back out, go wrong again, kind of answer, but didn't fully answer. But you could take it how you want to take it. So let me see if I could get some extra answers out of him in the next part that I'm going to ask him. So you said, Mr. Eric, that chemistry isn't key to a successful relationship. So are you saying if you don't have chemistry, it could still work? Or what are you saying? Because I'm about to fight you right now.
yeah, you should fight me. Good. I said that to get people like you frustrated, so it worked. That's good. No, I think here's what I believe. I believe that we have over romanticized relationships to the point that people have an unhealthy perspective on what healthy is and what it should be. So I would never say chemistry does not matter. I do believe chemistry matters. I believe it's one component of, so when people go, are we compatible? Most of the time they're thinking chemistry. I would say that compatibility would encompass chemistry,
Mm.
comparability, where are we similar, and complementarity, where are we different, but our differences make us each better rather than tear us down, right? So I do think chemistry has a place. Like, you don't want to get in a relationship with someone where you just like, I don't even like you. Like, I'm not feeling you. I'm not saying go find whatever your list is. I'm sure you got a list. We could talk about your list, but he got to be over 5'4" and whatever. So I'm not
5'9".
saying, yeah, that's why I say you are not going to go find you a 5'7" dude and be happy. We already know that. But so I'm not saying forget all that and just go find a guy who's 5'6" and has a job you don't like and that kind of stuff. But I think we have overemphasized chemistry above everything else. When my fight on that would be, and then I'll let you respond, intentionality for me is more important than chemistry when it comes to long-term relationship.
So you're saying, or elaborate on that, what is the intention behind the relationship or where the relationship is planning to go?
I'm saying intentionality in the relationship. Chemistry would say to us that everything that's important in relationships should just happen organically because we just love each other, right? So communication and sex and affection and time together and dates, and that should all just happen organically because we just love each other. But we get busy with life, and when you got kids and other stuff, that intentionality around the important things is what keeps you, quote, in love, sustains a relationship, not just some elusive thing we feel or don't feel. And so I think if you do the things that make the other person feel like you care for them and love them, you'll maintain that chemistry, that it's not some passive thing. It's about being intentional with the right things. So I would say intentionality is more important than chemistry.
Okay, but chemistry is important.
Yeah,
I
just
just
not
want to
as
make sure you
important as a
say it.
lot of people make it out to be. Just like,
Well, it
so
worked for Beauty and the Beast. It worked for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
we have gotten our ideas about dating and relationship from freaking Disney. Is that not problematic? The
Well,
man
we all
comes
love it.
in.
I just watched Beauty and the Beast recently. It was beautiful.
That's just like, so would you say and I'll ask you a question. Would you say sexual chemistry is important to know before you marry somebody?
Yes, for me, yes.
Yeah, see, everybody would say that, but if we go research, there's nothing that shows that sexual relationship before marriage looks anything or is a predictor of good sex in marriage, because dating has an agenda that sex doesn't. You're trying to win the person over, you're trying to perform, you're trying to be great, you're trying to compete with the other options out there. And then marriage has relational dynamics in it that dating doesn't, that affect the sexual relationship. When you're pissed at your husband because he spent, $5,000 that he shouldn't have, you're not going to feel like laying down in bed with him at night, right? You don't deal with that in dating. So people who would say, oh, I got to figure out if we're sexually compatible before I would marry him, it doesn't really translate into the reality of the sexual relationship in marriage, which again is why I would come back and say chemistry is important, but it's not everything.
So when you
Fight
say
me.
the sex part is important, but it's not everything.
Sure. I'm saying that you can feel like you have sexual chemistry with somebody while dating and then marry them and realize that the marriage relationship has a whole bunch of dynamics that the
Sure.
dating didn't, and stuff doesn't feel the same now in marriage that it did when you were dating. So it's not a great predictor.
Okay,
I'll
I like that.
guarantee.
All right, that
Guarantee.
okay. I'll
If that
accept
makes
that.
sense. So
How does someone fully know that they're compatible with someone? Because I've had friends where 1 minute everything is fine, all of a sudden, oh, we're not compatible. I'm like, but it's been 2 years.
yeah, no, and like I said, I think for me, compatibility is those three components I said. Chemistry, like do you generally like hanging out with them, that kind of stuff. Comparability, do we have enough similar values? I think couples need to know what their core values are, and they need to have shared values so that we're going in the same direction. Otherwise, your core values will compete for your resources, right? Of time, money, energy. Let's say I value travel. It's something I want to do regularly, and me and you are getting married and you don't value travel. You want a big house because you love hosting and having people over and staying at home. So if we have enough resources to have a big home and travel, we're good. But if those resources ever shrink, me and you are going to be fighting with our competing values. I'm going to be mad at you because you want to spend $5,000 a month on a mortgage for a house that we don't even use, and you're going to be mad at me because I want to spend $5,000 on a trip that when we get back in a week we got nothing to show for it. And so our opposing values will compete for resources in the relationship. So I think when you talk about compatibility, part of the comparability side is where do we line up with, we value the same things. Maybe that's faith, maybe that's family, maybe that's health and fitness or travel. Or so I think you got those areas. A part of compatibility, like before, is complementarity. Where are we different, and do we allow our differences to make each other better, or did they run over each other, right? And I don't value how you're different than me, so I'm trying to change you. And so I think compatibility is kind of those three things working together.
So when you say like compatibility and certain things working together, when I decide or any person decide to write their list, that's the things that they should put on the list because we all supposedly have a list at some point or the other. How does one list necessarily different from each other? And should we even have a list?
I go back and forth on this. So this is not me dancing around the circle again, like you say. I'm actually going to answer this, but I go back and forth, right? So I don't think that we should have no list, because like if you have no target, you're never going to hit it, right? Like
Mhm.
But I also think oftentimes our list or our quote type, some people have a type. A lot of times our type is something that is driven or born out of our dysfunctionality. Like you know what I mean? It's not a healthy thing. So you take,
But my type is Trevor Noah. I
okay,
don't see a
why?
problem.
What about Trevor? You like light
First of all,
skin, funny, what?
in my mind, he's from Africa. I'm from the Caribbean, so we're immigrants. He's funny. He's highly intelligent. So those are the number one things that I see in him, beside the fact that he's sexy.
Okay, so you like funny, you like intelligent and good looking.
Yes,
Okay,
and
so I don't.
he's over 5'9".
Okay, he's not short. That's good. No, I think that's fine. But I think I would challenge people to at least evaluate the things on their list to understand why it's on their list. For instance, let's say you got a girl who has never felt feminine, doesn't feel that great about herself in that area. So her type is big, muscle head, muscular dudes, and she always dates the big guys. The reason she's dating them is because only when she's around somebody who's really big and massive does she feel more feminine. Which I'm not.
Oh my God, is that the reason I like really skinny and tall, weak looking, sometimes feminine men? Oh my God, I'm a dude.
No,
What?
no, no.
What?
But
Am I that masculine?
where did you conclude that? All I was getting at was that this lady's drive or her type was born out of, she needs to get to a place where she feels good about her femininity and who she is for who she is. Grew up in a home where they were always criticized for being dumb or not measuring up or not being smart. You're not going to amount to anything. Oftentimes they'll be attracted to somebody who's highly intelligent because that's a way of proving mom and dad wrong. Well, I could attract somebody who's super smart, so I do have value or worth or whatever it might be. All I'm saying is check your list and your type to make sure that it's not driven by toxic, dysfunctional, unhealed woundedness, as opposed to.
Thank you very much. Now that I get off this, I gotta seek some serious group
No,
therapy.
it could just be you like smart, funny, good-looking people. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to have a root that's unhealthy. I'm just saying it can, which is why I'm
Okay.
like, be careful.
So how
with
do you
this.
know when it's unhealthy? Like,
You have to
because I can
evaluate
be
it.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
just
go
got to
through my
evaluate
list
it.
and really, really decide, okay, I like intelligent because I'm super intelligent. So that's why I
Sure.
don't want anybody trying to, certain things I go or I look at, I don't want anyone being like, what's that? And I'm like, Lord, I gotta explain all this to you and you're like 49. Like, no,
Yeah,
I
so
don't.
that's not born out of I don't feel good about myself. So if I get an intelligent guy that makes me look better, that's born out of I'm intelligent. I actually want a guy that can hold an intelligent
Yes,
conversation with me.
yes.
There's
Don't be
nothing wrong with
messing with
that.
my mind, Eric. Don't be messing
I
with my
didn't. No,
mind.
no, this was you. I didn't put that on you.
Okay, so like as you get older, right? It's harder. Dating seem harder. Why is that? Because I feel like
I
when you were 15, it was so much easier. He could take me to McDonald's, and I'm like, oh my God, he likes me.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, you got all kinds of different expectations and needs and desires now, but I would say it may be harder, but it should be easier too, because if you're older, you kind of have lived and you now know probably where you're going. You hopefully know kind of what your purpose is or what you were designed to do, and so it makes it easier to pick a partner that lines up with that, right? Whereas if you got married when you're 20 and then into your mid 30s, you're like, now I figured out who I am, and you're like, I don't know if you match with you match
And
with
it
me.
should that be something considered? Because it's always cute when you hear people marry this childhood sweetheart or high school sweetheart. But like we were talking about in the beginning, people grow, they grow apart,
Yeah,
and sometimes you haven't fully experienced life, and you're not even sure what you want, where you want to go. Like people always expect people to know what they're gonna be when they grow up and in college, and a lot of people might not. So when that comes to relationship, is it sometimes better you enjoy life a little, not having to do with sleep with 100 different people, even though I thought I should
sure.
have done that, but just getting to know different people, experience life, go places before you decide to settle down, figure out who you are and what you really want.
Well, I think that will. There's probably two sides of that. That will help you avoid potentially picking somebody that later on you don't line up with. But I also think there's value in when you're committed to somebody, both of you guys growing and supporting each other.
Look,
And
not everybody is you, Eric. Okay, not
I'm
everybody is
not
you.
I'm not saying everybody's me. I'm not even saying I do that well. I'm just saying that's a good model, right?
But one of the things that seem to be everywhere now, we women are so independent. You have a lot of women saying, I don't need a man. I always say I don't need one, but I want one. But then you have, it seems to me, a lot of angry women walking around. So is there really a serious issue with women being too independent? Or
There
honestly, you men just have to deal with it and understand it, and is that person not for you?
there's a serious issue with everybody being too independent. Again, it's one of those things. So we've made dependency a bad thing, right?
All right.
At this
Well,
point,
from woman point of view, pure point of view, yes, you're made independent woman a bad thing. Because honestly, when I think about it, if you go to college, it's a bunch of women. You go to conference, people better themselves, it's a bunch of women. I don't see you men trying to do much. So we start to go do everything, and then now you all want to come trying to tell me something. Like I would honestly, generally love a man to lead, but
yeah,
he gotta come good. He's just not coming
right. No,
good.
I hear you, but no, I think listen, we were created to depend on other people in relationship. Period.
Okay,
It
agreed.
it is it we've made it unhealthy to have to depend on somebody. That's why I say we've created this. Now I see why, right? Because codependency is not healthy. where you don't have an independent being in life and you're codependent on somebody else, and your happiness rises and falls on how they treat you, right? So because codependency is toxic, we swing the pendulum all the way over to independence and be like, I don't need a man, I don't need a woman, I could be independent, you know, all that stuff. The reality is we were designed to depend on each other, and it's healthy to depend on a partner or somebody you're in a relationship with, because we have relational needs. And so we can't meet all of those needs by ourselves. We need other people in our lives. And so I think this independent movement and independency, again, I think it's born out of pain and hurt and
Yeah,
wanting to
because you,
avoid stuff.
man, we couldn't get a bank account. We couldn't do nothing unless you saw a sign off on it. Okay. So that's a
I
little
know.
frustrating. And this is not like it was 1909. This is like in the 70s. We finally was like, oh my God, where's your husband? You can't open an account. You can't close the account. You can't make a withdrawal. So we needed you for everything. We were forced into that. So I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe we
But
seriously
now
rebelling.
what happens? We got wonderful women like you who are raised by grandma and mama and told you don't need a man for nothing but love. If he's not loving you, just ditch him. And now we got all these broken families and
Sure.
generations continuing to grow up without men and women together in the home, which statistically is not the best place for them. So I think we don't want to move back to what you said, where it's like women can't do nothing. They're completely dependent on the man. All that. Listen, codependency is not healthy, but we don't need to swing all the way to complete independence. There's something in the middle
Some
called
middle.
interdependence, which is healthy. I depend on you for stuff. You depend on me for stuff. We're in a relationship together. That's healthy, right?
So recently, Michelle Obama said there's no such thing as 50-50, because sometime in the relationship, she might be doing 70%. Sometime Barack might be doing a different percentage. So how do you view that?
I completely agree with that. What one relationships got to be 100-100, not 50-50, right? Because 50-50 is when you start keeping score, right? That's a, anytime you say it's not fair, right? If we have a fair approach to relationship, we will always be keeping track and keeping a ledger of what the other person is doing and is not doing for us, and weighing that against what we think we're doing for
Sure.
the relationship. All that does is put you into performance mindset. So I think your mentality has got to be, I'm going to keep giving, even in seasons like Michelle's saying, where the other person cannot give back reciprocally. Now,
Mhm.
again, you better be careful who you pick,
Sure.
because you just
See
pick somebody
see
that's
that's
all
what
take and no
matters.
give. Yeah. But I think different people have different capacities too. And so, marriage is about bringing the best you can. And let's say you take somebody who grew up in a relatively healthy home, not a whole lot of past pains or wounds, and they marry somebody who grew up in a home where there was, physical abuse or sexual abuse or verbal abuse. One's going to have a lot more capacity for relationship than the other person. One person was spending a bunch of their emotional energy trying to survive,
Right.
where the other person got to spend their energy on growing emotionally and relationally and stuff like that. So if those two get married at age 30, I would say the person who is healthier has a greater responsibility to give in the relationship than the person who's not as healthy. Like that's just reality. We have different capacities. So I think what Michelle says, there's going to be different seasons where one can give more than the other, but for some relationships it's just going to be lopsided. Like you are fundamentally wounded in some areas emotionally or psychologically that the other person isn't. If our expectation is you can do exactly what I can do, it's probably not realistic.
Plus, we can't go against Michelle Obama anyway.
Right. I would never do that on record. So of course not. But
So
the funny thing
yes,
is we can understand this physically. It's just harder emotionally and psychologically because you can't see it, right? Like if you were in a wheelchair and I wasn't there, I wouldn't have an expectation of you to like get stuff off the top shelf, or you know what I mean? We would
right.
change our expectations based on what the person's physical capacity is. I
Hmm.
think you have the same thing emotionally and psychologically. We just can't see it. And so it's a lot harder to kind of adjust to that.
Oh God. After this segment, I'm gonna find out if he has a cousin, a brother, or something, because I'm about to get hooked up. But since you're Pastor Eric, one question I had before we totally get, completion of this interview. let's talk about Ruth for 1 second, right? So a lot of people focus on Ruth when it comes to relationship. Okay.
You don't want to run me down this road. I'm about to blow up every woman waiting on her Boaz right now. But go ahead. The only people that suggest this whole Ruth Boaz approach to dating are the people who have never read Ruth. If you read that, yes, she worked out in the field, but then what happened later was, if you read Ruth, it says that I can't even believe you went here. We didn't ever talk about this, but now you're gonna get me fired up. It says that she went and laid at his feet after he had had many drinks and was feeling merry. So she waited for him to get drunk, and then she goes and uncovers his feet and lays there. And then when he gets up and notices her, and she says who she is, his first response is, you have a relative who is closer to you, so let's see if he wants you. And if he doesn't want you, then I'll take you. So for any woman who is waiting for her Boaz, you're telling me that you're waiting for a dude who is legally obligated to marry you because you're a widow and part of his family, and only will do it if the other dude doesn't want you first. Like, how is that a dream that people are like, yes, I'm waiting for my Boaz? It makes no sense. So yeah, if we want to go biblical, I think women should look for a Hosea. That dude, he was so committed. That's the prophet
Okay,
Hosea.
well, which part of the Bible we have to read on this on Hosea?
That's in the book. It's the book of Hosea. So
Okay, that's in the Old
basically,
Testament.
yeah, basically he was a prophet. God told him to go marry a prostitute who was going to be unfaithful to him. So he obeyed God, married a prostitute who then cheated on him. And then God told him to go get her back. So he knocked on the door of the guy that she was living with, cheating on, asked that guy if he could buy her back, and he bought her back. I'm like, that's the kind of commitment that these women should want. Some dude who is going to listen to God at all costs and who will come and buy you back even when you're unfaithful. Now that they could wait on their Hosea, but Boaz, they get him
Well,
out.
I'm gonna definitely read that one. But with that said, Eric, tell people how to connect with you, mention a little about your book, and so I can go hurry up and go read the Bible.
Go read the Bible quick. That's a problem. We probably need to do another show on just how the church has over spiritualized dating and created all kinds of dumb, weird stuff like that. Where it's like, people, what are these people out here doing? Waiting on God. But anyway, yeah, no, just go to my website, alteredmarriage.com. It's spelled ALTARED, marriage.com. And you'll see everything on there. I got free resources on there. I do dating classes, marriage classes, retreats. So they can get all the information on there.
Awesome. And don't worry, guys. Beside him advertising on his t-shirt, I'm going to make sure I put it down below so you all could definitely check out his website. So with that said, we all know where to find more. Is www.mssfrancois, that's multi-talented and super sexy, of course. And always remember, Mss Francois say exactly what you're thinking. Say bye, Eric.
See you later.